All life began in the oceans and made it to the beaches. The human story began in Africa 100,000 years ago. Human beings evolved by harnessing the spirit of cooperation, which was the secret to living with one another and with Earth under natural law. Life migrated and evolved across the planet. But 300 years ago, we began destroying our environment and threatening whole species with extinction. As we coveted Mother Nature's resources, societies imploded because of mankind's insatiable desire for dominance. Today, land remains at the heart of every global conflict. Botswana to the west, behind me Zimbabwe, and I'm standing here in South Africa at the crossroads of three countries, each with a different approach to land, but united by a common challenge. Zimbabwe, a gigantic prison camp because Robert Mugabe couldn't or he wouldn't solve the land problem he inherited from the British. Botswana, drawing on traditional African values, it kept this land in common ownership. It is a unique success story on this continent. And here in South Africa, the ANC government is sitting on a time bomb. It still hasn't figured out how to unite the races behind a plan that would deliver economic growth and racial harmony. The key to the secret of both communal peace and prosperity is to be found in the policies for using land. It is now more than 60 years since the United Nations adopted the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. These three countries are a microcosm that reveals why the human rights agenda has still not been fulfilled. These people's human rights are limited because they are denied access to the land they need. In Zimbabwe, Mugabe could blame the white settlers during the colonial era, but he and his government have now had more than 20 years to work out the policies to restore the rights of the people who were dispossessed. When he found he couldn't solve the problems that stemmed from the land, in his frustration he turned violent. He unleashed his henchmen, first on the white farmers, then on his own people. What was once a prosperous country which helped to feed her neighbours became a living hell. These are some of the people who are his victims. They fled the country in search of a new life in South Africa. When lives are distorted by lopsided economic policies, people are forced to survive on the margins of society. Understandably, they become desperate, and desperate people violate the rights of others. That's what happened in the squatter camps in 2008. More than 30,000 Zimbabweans, refugees from Mugabe's regime, were driven from their homes by rampaging mobs. 50 people were murdered because landless South Africans believed the immigrants had taken their jobs. This is happening all over Africa. But it was different in Botswana. When it gained independence from Britain, something remarkable happened. A constitution was adopted which preserved the social character of land. Every citizen had a direct stake in his or her homeland. Today, Botswana is successful because most of the value of her diamonds remains in the country. The diamond rents were not used to inflate the profits of the De Beers Corporation. Instead, they were used to fund people's health, education, and the country's infrastructure. The result? Per capita income in Botswana is 4 or 5 times greater than in neighbouring countries. Life expectancy is higher, child mortality is much lower, and literacy is increasing faster than any other sub-Saharan country. Here in South Africa, we have a strange situation. Under the constitution passed here in the Parliament in Pretoria, all of the land apparently belongs to the population. This is what the constitution actually says. We, the people of South Africa, believe that South Africa belongs to all who live in it. These words deceive. The ANC government is implementing a land reform that does not meet all the needs and aspirations of the people. Mandela's land ought to be a beacon of light for the whole of sub-Saharan Africa, but unemployment here is running at 40%. Limpopo is a rich agricultural province growing citrus sold globally. It sustains the jobs of thousands of people, but ownership of most of the fertile land is now disputed. All these acres are under claim by blacks who assert ancestral rights. They want the land. But white farmers assert their rights, having turned low-yielding land into highly productive enterprises that earn foreign exchange for the country.
We've had to trench around this whole field to keep the hippo out at a great expense, and fence to keep the animals out to protect these trees so that they can grow into nice big mature trees.
The future of South Africa hangs in the balance while politicians wrestle with land policies that now damage the economy.
We got the shock that there was a land claim on this farm. It was the grandson of the cattle herder of the Durants, the family that originally owned the farm, that helped him with his cattle. He worked in the Land Claims Commission and was the first to submit a claim against this farm.
Because black farmers and cattlemen were de-skilled during apartheid, many now lack the skills necessary to run commercial farms. The government failed to provide the necessary training before handover.
Over the river, the total collapse of a citrus farm there that was taken over by them, and many other regions where farms have been taken over, that they have failed.
This tree, if you see there is nothing in the oranges. The problem is cable. The small boys have stolen the cable that side, no, and there is no pipe who can supply the trees about the water.
All South Africans, regardless of colour, ultimately want the same thing: prosperity, free from poverty. They just don't yet know how to achieve this in the light of the competing claims for land. How do you satisfy everyone's material need for a decent standard of living whilst recognising that they all have an equal right to land?
The truth is that the politicians and world leaders have let us down. They've not found the formula for resolving the most burning of issue: how do we share land? So we've got to get on with it ourselves. And the fact is that if we learn to respect each other's rights, we will find a way to respect nature, conserve her, and she will yield her fruits of abundance.
Instead of forcibly redistributing land, social and economic progress follows when landowners pay for their public services out of rents. Warlords would be put out of business and political corruption starved if rents were reserved for the common good. That's the lesson of history and economic theory.
The benefits would be shared, and the wages of people like Clarice need not be taxed. In this way, even the landless would have a direct and material stake in the earth that was used by others. This is the ethical free market solution that will begin to stitch together everybody in the community.
The United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights lists every imaginable entitlement, from the right to life to employment and shelter. But the Declaration is silent about a person's equal right to a share in the benefits flowing from the land. By relearning the early lessons that were inscribed in the ancient wisdom of Africa, we would create an age of sustainable abundance. Only when we re-establish our relationship with the land is it possible to live in harmony with Earth and our fellow beings. The legacy of mankind must not be mass poverty and the destruction of nature.